Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. And in this preview video, I'll be previewing the fortunes of a side that's given teams tough times in previous editions of this competition. They beat England in 2015, they beat South Africa in 2019, and I won't be surprised if they beat one of the more prominently talked about teams in this edition. I thought they were spirited in 2019 during that run, but they saw, especially in terms of the bowling, the conditions didn't quite suit their attack. I think they have a better attack this time, and they've got the conditions to go with it as well. And they've got a fierce fan base that would be supporting them all the way. This side is Bangladesh. Looking at the squad, you've got a few core players that have been around for a while in Shakib Al Hasan, Mushfiqur Rahim, Mahmudullah Riyad, and Mustafizur Rahman. These players have been part of a reliable core for Bangladesh over the years, and two things stand out when looking at this squad. First off, I think the bowling looks much better than what it was in 2019, and on top of that, you've got the conditions on offer that they'll enjoy bowling in. I think in 2019, you had the likes of Mashrafe Mortaza and Mohammad Saifuddin bowling in English conditions, which is a complete mismatch. In this case, you don't have that problem. And as far as the batting goes, I think this lineup is slightly weaker than the 2019 lineup. Yes, you've got a few core players there, like I mentioned, but in terms of consistency, are they the same players as what they were in 2019? I don't think they are. You've got someone like a Mahmudullah Riyad who hasn't played many ODIs this year. He's been rightfully included in the ODIs in this World Cup squad to bat at 6, but he hasn't played many ODIs this year, and it'll be interesting to see how he goes. In terms of consistency, is Mushfiqur Rahim the same player as he was in 2019? I don't think he is. Shakib Al Hasan, since the 2019 World Cup, he's not been the most consistent with the bat. He's a player for the big occasion, and I think he will do well in this tournament. But in terms of the recent form for even the core players, it's not like they have been what they have been in 2019, and this doesn't look as short of a group as what it looked before. In terms of the batting front, despite the fact that you've got players such as Nazmul Hossain Shanto, who've emerged and have done very well this year, averaging almost 50. So, taking all this into account, I'll be giving my views on the 11 they should pick in the next part of this video, and giving my views on the options they have at their disposal. Regarding how I think their 11 should go, I've gone at Tanzid Hasan and Liton Das to open the batting with Najmul Hossain Shanto at 3, Shakib Al Hasan at 4, Mushfiqur Rahim 5, Mahmudullah Riyad at number 6, Mehdi Hassan Miraz at 7, Nasul Ahmed at 8. For now, you could even play Mehdi Hassan at 8 if you wanted to. Shariful Islam at 9, Taskin Ahmed at 10, and Mustafizur Rahman at 11. And starting from the top, Tanzid Hassan has recently broke into the scene in his last two innings that he's played, being the warm-up games against Sri Lanka and England. He's gone well in both those games. And in terms of the way he looks to go about his business, I think it bodes well with what I've said in previous videos. And I'll say this again because this phrase will help you win the World Cup if you follow it. The key to batting in ODIs in this part of the world is for your top 4 to set things up for the players to follow. And with the measured way in which Tanzid Hassan bats, I think, yes, he's going to have to fit in the shoes of Taim Iqbal, but I think with the game he's shown thus far, he looks a good player. And I think you've got to back him to open the batting in the side. He's gone well in these two warm-up games, and I hope he has a good tournament in this World Cup. And to open alongside him, you've got a player where, if you're looking at the batsmen in this Bangladesh squad and thinking, who's that one player that makes you go wow in terms of batting talent, it is Liton Das. Unfortunately for him, he's been injured a bit, and when he's returned, he's not been in the best of form. Apart from the one innings against Sri Lanka in the first warm-up game, he's not been in great form at all. The thing about him is he looks to play shots, and in terms of setting things up for the others to follow, if Liton Das gets out early more often than not, then you've got more pressure on two young players either side of him in Tanzid Hassan and Najmul Hossain Shanto. And you've got Shakib Al Hasan if he plays in the side who will bolster things at number 4. And that's why it's vital that Liton Das goes well consistently, because you've got Tanzid Hassan and Najmul Hossain Shanto, who, even though they've showed promise, are two young players. And at number 3, I think a very big positive for them is how well Najmul Hossain Shanto has gone this year. He's averaged almost 50, five 50s and 2 centuries. And I don't know if he's played cricket or much cricket after his injury, which ruled him out of the Asia Cup. He scored a century against Sri Lanka, I think, or one of Sri Lanka or Afghanistan. And it was against Afghanistan. And after that, he was ruled out of the competition when he scored an 89 against Sri Lanka in the game before. He's been very good this year. And at number 3, I think you have to back him to do well. In terms of backups for Tanzid Hassan and Najmul Hossain Shanto, you've got a Tawhid Hridoy who bats in the middle order. I don't think he can be a backup for Tanzid Hassan and Najmul Hossain Shanto at one of the opening slots and at number 3. So those two doing well is key for them. And Shakib Al Hassan, who this year he's averaged almost 40 and I think 13 wickets or so in 14 games if I check here. 14 wickets in 13 innings. And it's a case where has he been as consistent since the 2019 World Cup with the bat? No, he hasn't. But I think he's a player for the big occasion. He's been decent this year and you saw him play a couple of good innings in the Asia Cup against Pakistan and against India. And if this side has to do well or even remotely okay in this competition, then Shakib Al Hassan at number 4 and bowling 10 overs is crucial for them. He says he should be okay and 100% fit is what he said to play the first game against Afghanistan because he couldn't play the second warm against England because he sustained an injury. If Shakib Al Hassan is fit, like I've said, with what he brings with bat and ball, I think it boosts this team significantly. In the last couple of years, Mushfiqur Rahim hasn't been the consistent banker that he had been in around that 2019 time. And he's going to have to provide consistent performances at number 5 because looking at this side, you've got 2 players who you're relying on their potential in Tanzid Hassan and Najmul Hossain Shanto. Najmul Hossain Shanto's done well, but in terms of batting at 3 in a World Cup, we'll have to see how he goes. He's a very good player and Tanzid Hassan looks a good player as well. But if you've got 2 inexperienced players around the Liton Das who, like I said, looking at the batting talent in this Bangladesh squad, you look at him and he's that wow player, but he's not been in form at all recently. And in terms of the way he looks to go about his business, over 9 group games in a campaign, if you look to attack the bowling more often than not at the top of the order and you don't have great consistency either, then there's far too much pressure on the 2 youngsters either side of him and a Shakib Al Hassan. And Mushfiqur Rahim as well is going to have to alleviate some of the pressure felt by Shakib Al Hassan and play consistently at that number 5 spot. And something that may make Mushfiqur Rahim and Mahmudullah Riyad's life even harder is that Shakib Al Hassan is saying he's fit enough to play, or 100% fit in his words, to play the first game of their campaign against Afghanistan. But if he has to miss a couple of games, in terms of a pure middle order batting backup, you've got Tawhid Hridoy to bat at 4 in place of Shakib Al Hassan. You could say they have the option of playing Mahdi Hassan Miraz at 4 and Mahdi Hassan at number 7. But if they don't do that, then they've got the only other option they've got is playing Tawhid Hridoy in place of Shakib Al Hassan. Now, I don't know too much about the Netherlands top 4, but if you're looking at the other 9 teams, if Shakib Al Hassan isn't fit for a couple of games and you play Tawhid Hridoy in place of him, Bangladesh have got the weakest top 4 in the competition without Shakib Al Hassan in my view. You'd be relying on 3 inexperienced players, and unlike Tanzid Hassan and Najmul Hossain Shanto, Tawhid Hridoy hasn't shown much in the same way as what those 2 have shown in terms of confidently scoring a higher aggregate of runs, whether it be in a couple of innings or across a few games like Najmul Hossain Shanto has done. He's got a 50 against India, but in terms of overall, I think convincingness, he hasn't shown as much. And I think him replacing Shakib Al Hassan at number 4, no disrespect to him, but I think it'd be quite a tough order. And 3 inexperienced players and a Liton Das not getting runs, it doesn't look a great situation for Bangladesh as far as the top 4 is concerned if the 2 youngsters don't get runs. And this makes Mushfiqur Rahim's role even more vital to get runs at 5. And Mahmudullah Riyad hasn't played too many ODIs this year. He's been correctly brought back for his experience at number 6. They didn't have any other candidate. he was part of the core for quite a few years before, and his finished innings for Bangladesh and has got both grades, which is a positive. But we're going by what he's done in the past. He hasn't played many ODIs this year, and he will have to go well at 6. And I think you've got what I alluded to before was that even if you're looking at the core of players, Shakib Al Hasan is a big tournament player. I back him to do well, but Mushfiqur Rahim hasn't been as consistent as before. You don't know what Mo'minullah Riyad will do. And Liton Das, for all his talent, should have been part of that core by now, hasn't done too much. So I think this batting looks a bit shaky, quite a bit shaky actually. There's far too much pressure on Shakib Al Hasan from the outset. At number 7, you've got a Mehidy Hasan Miraz, who was always a good prospect, but especially of late his batting stocks have risen significantly. Don't be fooled by that strike rate. He has changed the course of games for Bangladesh, and that 100 against India is testament to that, with about 12 wickets in the 13 innings. And in terms of the 3 spinners for Bangladesh, in Shakib Al Hasan, Mehidy Hasan Miraz and Nasul Ahmed, or Mehidy Hasan, one of those two, there were spinners that look to apply the squeeze during the middle overs. You've not got an attacking wrist spinner on the side, where a few years ago, I don't think that rule is there anymore. There was a rule in the Bangladesh Premier League where one wrist spinner had to be included in the playing 11, I think, and in an effort to find a wrist spinner to play for the national side, and that rule isn't there anymore. They haven't found an attacking wrist spinner, but I think with these spinners looking to do what they do, applying the squeeze in the middle overs, and rather than outright going for wickets, looking to contain the scoring rate that's worked for them as well. And I think in these conditions, they could look to do the same thing. And in terms of the seamers, especially 2 seamers have been in great form this year. Shariful Islam is a great prospect, 16 wickets in 8 games, and Taskin Ahmed 21 wickets in 10 games. And to supplement those two, you've got a Mustafizur Rahman, who has got over 150 wickets in this format. In terms of who you would play between Mustafizur Rahman and Tanzim Hasan Saqib, yes, Tanzim Hasan Saqib made his debut in the Asia Cup and went well against India, but I'd still back the pedigree of Mustafizur Rahman. He's got more than 150 wickets in this format. The slow balls that he bowls into the surface will be handy, and he can bowl decently quickly as well. The other two would bowl more quickly than he does, but he can bowl decently quickly. So you've got a good set of seamers there, and you've also got a good set of spinners that look to contain the scoring rate and consistently do so as well. As far as backups go, Hassan Mahmood's a decent bowler, but I don't think he is a backup for the first choice seamers. Shariful Islam and Taskin Ahmed are quick bowlers, and I don't think Hassan Mahmood's a like-for-like replacement for Mustafizur Rahman. So he's a decent bowler, but I don't think he's a backup for anyone. Mehidy Hasan, he could play in the side in one of 2 ways. He could play instead of Nasul Ahmed at number 8, or if Shakib Al Hasan has to miss a couple of games, then Mehidy Hasan Miraz can bat at 4 and Mehidy Hasan can bat at 7. Those are the 2 ways you can get into the side. And comparing him and Nasul Ahmed, Mehidy Hasan in my view is more of the all-rounder, even though Nasul Ahmed went well against India when he scored his 44. They could play either of those at number 8. Tanzim Hasan Saqib is decently quick, and I think it's Tanzim Hasan Saqib. Tanzim Hasan Saqib is decently quick and slingy, but is he a backup or an adequate backup? Even though he's shown some decent signs so far for the first choice team, I don't think he is at this point in time, even though he's shown some promise. Tawhid Hridoy is a backup for the middle order batsman. So looking at the backups, you've only got one viable backup, and that is Mehidy Hasan. So the first 11 has to do it for them. And this is a side with a few injury concerns. Liton Das, Shakib Al Hasan, Taskin Ahmed, those 3 you'd think aren't too far away at this point in time from an injury. So the first 11 has to do it for them because they haven't got too much on the bench, maybe apart from Mehidy Hasan. And the key for Bangladesh, as I've said with other subcontinental teams, is to help themselves. The batting was much better in 2019. The bowling is much better now. Combine that with the conditions as well. You'd think if the batting was like it was in 2019 and the bowling how it is now, this would have been some side, and this would have been a difficult side to stop in these conditions. Unfortunately, while one facet has peaked, the batting has gone down a bit, and they may struggle with that going forward in this campaign. And now on the admission of Tamim Iqbal, he supposedly refused to bat in the middle order And Shakib Al Hasan gave the example of Rohit Sharma after batting at 3 and 5. He then became what he is opening the batting. Now, I think there are some intricacies to that example. You've got someone like an Aiden Markram who started off opening the batting but very quickly shifted to number 4 and still opens the batting in tests at times in South Africa. But he shifted to number 4 in white ball cricket and has done very well. Rohit Sharma at the start of his career was batting in the middle order, but since 2013 he has been more of an opener, and especially since 2015 he's been more of an opener even for the Mumbai Indians. And if he was to bat in the middle order in the ODI side now, it wouldn't be as comfortable for him. Tamim Iqbal has batted 240 times in ODIs. I'd be surprised if he's batted in the middle order for more than even 5 or 10 of those attempts, even those innings, even sporadically out of those 240 attempts. You ask him to bat in the middle order, and by the way, if he bats in the middle order, then you probably wouldn't be footing the 11 that I've got here. Maybe they were looking for Mushfiqur Rahim to bat at 6, Shakib Al Hasan to bat at 5, and Tamim Iqbal at 4. But I don't think Mushfiqur Rahim would be a great fit at number 6. I think he's more of a number 5 than a number 6. And even then, it doesn't solve the problem that Litan Das, you don't know what he's going to do. So rather than letting Tamim Iqbal to fortify that top 4 by batting where he has batted all his career, him batting at 4 doesn't make sense. And even Shakib Al Hasan himself, I don't think of late he's been at his happiest playing for Bangladesh. And apparently he said after the World Cup he won't be captain, so there's things going on behind the scenes as well. But let's see how they go in this tournament. They've got a very good bowling attack, and if the batting can pull things together, then I think they can have a decent campaign. But let's see how they go. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Share it with your friends. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?